actual manufacturing cost of imported goods in the US is the smallest portion of the final retail price. I truly hope normal American people and normal American workers don't suffer too much from this. Honestly, I don't really think it impacts China a lot. And I believe it won't be long before we see 100% tariff on both sides, because we know this day will come, sooner or later. Now it's coming, and now we are ready. Hey guys, today is absolutely a day that will be recorded in history books. I believe regarding on the US imposing tariffs on the world, we can even say we are already witnessing history. And in today's video, I will share my view from the perspective of a Chinese person about how do we see this globally watched tariff war. And from the standpoint of a guy who used to work at e-commerce area, let's talk about its impact on the world trading. First, let's briefly summarize the US latest move. On April 2nd, Trump announced at the White House the so-called reciprocal tariffs on almost all of his trading partners. America imposed 34% tariff on China, 20% on EU, 10% on Brazil and the UK, 31% on Switzerland, 26% on India, 25% on South Korea, 24% on Japan, 32% on Indonesia, and 36% on Thailand, etc. This list basically includes all the countries in the world. Then, on April 3rd, China announced a 34% retaliatory tariff on US goods. Of course, the tariff war between China and the US has been going for a long time. Both the US tariffs on China and China's countermeasures are layered on top of existing tariffs. So, for example, many Chinese goods already faced 10 to 20% tariffs. So with this new tariff, they could reach around 40 to 50% or even higher. According to the latest news, Trump even threatened to add another 50% if China doesn't revoke its punitive tariffs. And I believe it won't be long before we see 100% tariff on both sides. In short, the US and China are almost decoupled, and the US is nearly decoupling from the whole world as well. Here comes the question. As a Chinese person, what do I think about these tariffs? Honestly, I don't really think it impacts China a lot, maybe even negligible. People are not treating this as a big deal because we have been fighting tariff wars, tech wars, trade wars, and even cultural wars since 2018. China has always been defense, but this time we are turning to fight back. And then let's talk about the impact on people's life, because this is what really matters for most of ordinary people. Tariff will completely disrupt the trade flows and eventually affect people's life. Again, I want to say there is no ordinary people is in any fault, because we are all same after all. We are all work hard, paying tax, and raise a family, trying to have a better life. So I truly hope normal American people and normal American workers don't suffer too much from this. But it's just our generation is at this point of the history. So let's dive deep a little bit on the impact of people's life. Let's start from China. If you open any custom reports, you can easily find the main US export goods to China is soybeans, energy, and machinery. These three is taking place the most percentage. Obviously, the tariffs will raise their price, but in China, their impact is manageable. First, let's talk about soybean. I don't know how to say it officially and properly. Let's just be straightforward. So this part can be easily replaced by Russia and Brazil, especially Russia. So what really interesting is, in the past 3 years, America accidentally are pushing China and Russia collaborate together. And to be honest, we didn't work that close before. Well, of course, we do business before, but not that close, not that much. But after these 3 years, we're working pretty close, and we found out we're working pretty well. The truth is, after all those sanctions and punishment and tariffs for Russia and China, so we have to work together. And then we found out all the stuff growing in Russia's land is what we need, like food, soybeans, meat, and gas. And all the products we made in factory is what Russia need, like chips, cars, household goods, electronics. It's very natural and smooth, you know? So I don't really worry about the soybean part, because first, country is based on agriculture. And of course, we know we have a lot of people. So even though we have some gap on the food part, we can easily replace Americans' portion with a Russia or Brazil. It's not hard. And then we're talking about the energy part. I'm not sure, have you ever been to China? Please just look outside before you're landing in the airplane. You will see beautiful cities, big field, and huge solar farm. Not only in big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, just random city, any cities, especially in the west side. As you know, China is kind of the lead of the, how to say that, ESG or sustainability or clean energy process, whatever you call it. China is doing it since like 6 years ago and invest a lot of money on that. And we already have a full supply chain on this industry, no matter solar panel or wind power or water power or hydrogen power, etc. I don't want to say like, okay, we're doing this for global warming, for the clean air, for the wild animals, for the dolphins in the oceans. Of course, we do. But more importantly, the root reason why we spend so much money and so much time on this area is for our energy structural safety. In another word, we are preparing for this day. Of course, we will have a gap between the power supply and power demand. But, like I said, we do have many alternate options to make the impact controllable. And then let's talk about the machineries. This is actually the main part being discussed on the internet, as so many comments would be like, okay, after America stops supplying this high-tech stuff to China, China will back to 1990s. They can't make anything now. If we look at the market share on the high-tech industry, we'll find out it's true. American products, American brands, American companies are taking place more portion. But when we're getting back to reality, we'll find out we can make almost anything. The issue has always been the market resistance. It's never been our capability. So let's take another great example. Chinese smartphones versus iPhone. Personally, I use iPhone for a really long time. And back then, iPhone is taking the dominant place on the smartphone market. But at the same stage, Chinese brand like Xiaomi, Huawei, and OVO is a small brand, probably you never heard about it. They're making phones as well. And they're making high-end phone and low-end phone. High-end phone is like similar price with iPhone and similar quality. Low-end phone is much more cheaper, but it's not that comfortable to using it. So back then, as an iPhone user, the problem is not the Chinese brand, can they make the phones or not? The problem is why I should switch my iPhone to another Chinese phones. Because it's very easy and simple. I have all my data, all my photos here. And then I already got used to iOS system. If I switch to Android or Harmony, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And then one thing happened. It's US punishment, restriction, and sanction on Huawei. US almost banned all the Huawei products in all over the world. So at that point, I have a great reason to switch to Chinese brand. Because it's very simple. As a Chinese, I want to support my local brand in this hard time. And then I switched to Huawei Mate 60. And until now, I never changed back to iOS anymore. If you compare the smartphone sales data of Chinese brand and iPhone, you will find out many people changed their mind in that period of time. They were switched to a local brand and never switched back anymore. So that's only for smartphones. How about the manufacturing equipments? Because if the tariff make US equipments more expensive or even too expensive, business will switch to domestic alternatives. And probably it's going to be permanently shifting the supply chains. This is not like smartphones. It's going to be a huge influence on the whole industrial structure. And then let's talk about US. I have only been worked and lived in Europe before, and I have been to US once, so my understanding probably is limited. But from what I have seen, the majority of daily necessities in the US are made in China, from high-end to low-end products. So after China imposed these tariffs, price increase are almost certain, even though they may not happen immediately. I want to dig deeper into this point about US product pricing, because ask anyone in the foreign trade business and they will tell you, compared to any other countries, the actual manufacturing cost of imported goods in the US is the smallest portion of the final retail price. For example, a shirt sold for $20 in the US might only cost $1 for production. The remaining $19 covers tariffs, transportation, storage costs, wholesale and retail markups, store rent, water bill, electric bill, labor, utilities, taxes, and their profit. This isn't saying like US business guys are greedy. It's not. It's just the inevitable result of the US market model. So, mathematically, if US only imported shirts from China, the impact of tariff on cost would exist but wouldn't be huge. For instance, a 50% tariff would only raise the production cost of the shirt from $1 to $1.5. The final consumer price would still increase, but the extent would be predictable. because other costs still remain controllable. Only the cost of the product itself goes up. But the problem is, America does not only just import shirts from China, it imports nearly everything. So this can create a domino effect. Small price increase in every link of supply chain will amplify each other, and eventually leading to steep, widespread inflation over time. Let's say I'm the owner of that shirt store. At first, if only the shirts get 50% more expensive, I might absorb that cost or raise the price a little bit to keep my customer happy, right? But then, my store lights burn out and I need a new light bulb, and I found out it's more expensive as well. My shelves and hangers also cost more. My warehouse needs more expensive pallets, and my delivery truck needs more expensive tires. So my storage and transport cost is rise as well. At this point, if I don't raise my price, I will lose money when I sell the t-shirt. It's not make sense. So I have to increase the shirt price from 20 to 30. Then a furniture factory worker who needs that t-shirt to work demands a raise, raising labor costs for the factory as well. And then furniture price will go up. Household expenses rise, and workers across industries demand higher wages. Guys, it's triggering an endless cycle. This is just a small example, because in reality, other factors like market competition, inflation, and supply-demand shifts also come into play. Still, I genuinely hope all the ordinary American workers and people are not hit too hard from this, because I know we are all ordinary people who working hard and trying to have a better life. We don't have any difference after all. So I truly hope they can get through this hard time. Of course, China has its own challenges, the overcapacity. The America accounts for about 14% of China's total export. It's a significant share that will shrink over time. And this means we must turn to new markets, and many people working in foreign trade area have already started exploring them, like Central Asia, Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Eastern Europe, Middle East. Because of the Belt and Road Plan, it's going to be lower trade barriers and lower transport costs compared to US, which means Chinese product can offer a better value in those markets. And at some point, I think China may even cut tariff for these nations to fully replace US trade volume. This transition is already in motion, backed by policy like Chinese dual circulation, which means boosting domestic demand while expanding global trade, and manufacturing upgrades, which means shifting to high-value export. And as you know, the BRICS, ICO, Belt and Road collaboration. And then finally, here comes the answer. Why are Chinese people so calm on this tariff war? Because we know this day will come, sooner or later. Now it's coming, and now we are ready. After all, no matter how this tariff war ends, one thing is clear: the old US dominant global trading system is gone. Some traditional allies may still stick with the US, but many more countries will seek new opportunities. For China, some US-focused exporters will suffer, but new trade companies will emerge. I spoke with my friend who works in export business in Guangzhou. Yesterday, he told me he already refused to offer a lower price to keep the US buyers. His original word is, we will sell at our price, or find a new market, or I lose money, it's fine, but we won't let them look down at us. That was really impressive to me, and I truly believe he can explore much more markets and make a lot of good deals with them. And I think more high-quality Chinese goods will sell globally, while foreign products also enter China as well. A new trading system is forming right now. And for the US, I truly think it's good for them to revive their production and compete with us on technologies, innovations, not just tariffs and sanctions. You know, a fair competition in technology, quality, and supply chain would benefit everyone in the world. Every time when I look back, I always surprised about the progress made in China. Because guys, you have to know, China started industrialization 200 years after US. When Americans rode trains, airplanes, and boats, we ran barefoot to catch up. For 30 years, we built while we chasing. And now we are face to face. From trading 200 million shares for one airplane to mastering AI, EVs, chips, and robotics. This road wasn't easy, and we faced a lot of unfair treatment and bullying. But now, finally, we can fight back. The world today is like a big house. Everybody in the world living here. America keeps tearing it down, and China keeps repairing it. In this historic shift, the road ahead is tough. but China won't let the building collapse.